Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new month of Moody Talks. This month, the month of March, we are talking about shame. So, shame is one of those emotions that people really have a lot of misunderstandings about. And I can understand why, because it's a word that's used a lot. And I think people don't really know the true meaning of what shame is and how it is used to help people to be, more involved in a society in the way that it is meant to be run. Shame is a valid emotion. It's a very valid emotion. It's just how it's used that really, I think, gets confusing and can be quite destructive, especially if it starts in childhood. And I'm going to probably delve into things about myself and about my history. As I've said before, I live with PTSD, complex PTSD and major depressive disorder, and that stems from childhood abuse. And so that is one of the reasons why I do what I'm doing here with Moody, because I think that emotions need to be talked about in a constructive way. And that children especially need to learn that all emotions are valid. It's just how that you deal with them. That's the important part. So my mission with Moody, this guy here, is to help families to better discuss these kind of emotions and make sure that they're used in a concrete, constructive way. So delving into shame. So there's shame, which is the valid emotion of helping to understand when someone has gone against the moral compass or, beliefs of a society, whether it be society as a whole or a small society, a small social group that people have together. And so it is very constructive when people learn that. Let's give an example. A child is on the playground and they see another child playing in a sandbox with a toy. They want that toy. And as they go to grab that toy, instead of asking for that toy, they grab the toy and they may even push the other child over to secure that toy, and then they can run away. Now, if it's seen by adults or discussed with an adult, hopefully that caregiver that's with them will go to them and say, it's not appropriate to take someone's toy away from them while they're using it. Instead, we ask if they do not want you to use that toy, they say no, and you need to accept that and find something else to play with, right? We don't hit, we don't push, and we don't steal other people's toys. So that's a constructive way of dealing with a child's need to feel that emotion of shame, because they may feel the shame because they're feeling, oh, I did something that is not right in this particular group, in this setting. Okay, or in society in general. And they learn from that. And next time, whether they listen to that bit of shame that they felt during that or not, they will feel it. They will know that it's there. So that is a constructive way of working with shame. Okay, it's for the societal good. Now let's talk about shame that is not appropriate. It's called toxic shame. And shame, the word shame and the idea, the emotion of shame is I did something that isn't appropriate for the group. Now, toxic shame comes about when a child or an adult, anybody really, is constantly told that they are a bad person for doing that thing. So shame is learning that that is not appropriate for the societal context. Whereas toxic shame is that the child is told so many times, the person's told so many times that they're bad because they did it. And so toxic shame means I'm a bad person. What I did, it makes me a bad person. And I'll be talking a lot more about toxic shame because I think it's really important for people, caregivers, parents to understand the difference and to work with their children to make sure that they don't feel that toxic shame where they go into their lives thinking that they're not a good person. And I have that experience and work through it in my therapy. And I want to share what I've learned and what I do to help to push away that toxic shame and say, no, that's not true. I'm not a bad person. And I don't have to listen to that either to myself or from others, right? Okay, so that's why I really like talking about shame and the emotion as it is. As I always do on the first Moody Talk of the month, is that I go through the basics of what shame is. I like to talk about words that we use to describe shame and how intense those words are, so that if we're feeling shame and we have a specific word that we're feeling, we understand what that intensity is for us, and we can cope and use coping skills that will help to alleviate that feeling, and also that it will help to understand and learn what happened and why they feel that shame. Okay, so I'm going to go through the key words, the descriptive words, going to go through body sensations, how you feel. And these are not all of the words, not all of the sensations, not all of the actions that we take. These are just some. And I just wanted to introduce you to them so that you understand what is shame. Okay, let's dig into it. Okay, we're going to start with descriptive words for shame. So here's embarrassed, self-conscious, shy, humiliated, mortified, and feeling culpable. A culpable means that it's their fault, that it's your fault. Okay? Let's go on to the word scale now. So we know the intensity of these. This is my word scale. It doesn't have to be yours. This is just an example of what a word scale and what the intensity is for these words. Okay? So for me, shy is on the low shame side of things, okay? So I'm feeling shy. Self-conscious, I say that would go in the middle, well, probably about a 3 or so, feeling self-conscious because of something that's been done, for some reason having that feeling. Embarrassed, I feel like that goes into the center, it goes closer to like 5, 4, 5. Culpable is that feeling of, okay, I did something wrong and I have to own up to that. That's what I did. So I feel like that's a little bit higher on the scale because it's really more of like an action, right? Feeling culpable, having culpability. And then mortified, I put that pretty high up on the scale. If I'm feeling mortified, that's a pretty intense feeling. And humiliated as well. I feel like humiliated is the highest intensity for me. It kind of goes back and forth with the mortified, but humiliated is a pretty intense word for shame. Okay, so I have these worksheets up on my site, and I will have the link in the in the comments stuff. Okay, in the description. Let's move on to body sensations and experiences when we're feeling shame. Okay, so getting that stomach pain, like in the pit of your stomach when you've been called out for something, and feeling that for me is a really big one. When I feel like I've been called out, I feel like I'm very sick to my stomach. Wanting to hide from the world, just not even wanting to go out, not wanting to be a part of society or the social group. There's a sense of dread, like, oh, I have to, take responsibility, and this is going to be really, really hard for me. And so that dread is a really important part of the feeling, the body sensation that you may have when you're feeling shame. If it's a fairly large situation which you're feeling shame, you're definitely going to probably feel that dread feeling, right? Let's see, feeling rejected. Like, okay, I did this wrong and now nobody's going to want to be around me, right? And then wanting to shrink away in public. Like you're in the situation and you just want to become so small and you want to just hopefully just get put, just go away and not have anyone even notice that I'm going away, right? Then there's that body heat rising, that feeling of, oh gosh, this, like your face is getting flushed, and your body is feeling really, really warm, and not in a great way. This isn't like a mild feeling of shame. That body heat of coming up, it's just like coming from the pit, from that stomach pain, and just rising up into your face. I think that's a really, really intense feeling of shame. Okay, and we're gonna go into the expressions and actions for shame. So these are the things that we do or we say, or we, what we end up doing because we feel that shame. Avoiding people involved with the situation that caused the shame. So no calls, no emails, no text back, anything like that, because you're just feeling that shame. Appeasing, saying sorry obsessively or constantly. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Even though it's probably at the point that you've already discussed it, and it's, the story's kind of over, but you still feel that shame inside, and you feel like you constantly have to say you're sorry to them. Even if it's not in the situation that it was in, that you feel like you have to say sorry to the person that you had a situation with before. Physically withdrawing in public. So it's kind of like what I had said before, is like you're there in the situation and all you want to do is become tiny, tiny, tiny and slip away. And, that's a feeling, that's a really intense feeling, that you just want to become so, so small and just, run away so that you don't feel that intense pressure of shame from the group or the situation. And then finally, hiding the behavior that caused that situation. Okay, so this is if you are in a situation and you felt shame over it, and it was something that you had done, and you never want anyone to ever see that behavior again, regardless of if it's appropriate for other situations. You know what I mean? Like that you never want to do this again because you felt shame because of it. And that can be even in positive situations where it didn't work out correctly. You never want to do it again because you feel like you're just going to embarrass yourself, or you're going to, have people make fun of you for it. So that's a big behavior that people tend to do when they felt shame for a behavior maybe once or twice, that they never ever want to show it in public again, because that's what caused them that feeling. So these are the worksheets for this week. Like I said, they're my usual first Moody Talk worksheets and what we described, because I think it's a very important thing to do, is to write down the words that you think describe shame. That way you can use that word scale and really look at what the intensity is for those words. Like I said, if you're in a situation and you feel embarrassed, and that is a shame reflex, the embarrassment is, what intensity is that for you? Is it higher on the scale, or is it more mid-level? And what can you do as a coping skill to deal with that feeling? And we're going to go more into that as well. We're going to do our coping skills. I do at least 2. Next week, I'm going to work on toxic shame. We're going to talk a lot more about that. And maybe we'll talk a bit about how we as human beings can help others to not feel that toxic shame, to understand that the situation is not that they are a bad person, but that what happened wasn't correct for that situation, wasn't right for that situation. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again next week.